why is the law allowing me to argue my own case, right?
Yeah.
As long as I'm able to back it up with, the legalities, and like I have all the paperwork and I have all the case documents that I can go back to and cases that I can refer to, I think I should be able to do it by myself.
Yeah.
It's not ideal, but
Correct.
definitely, and you can't. This is where you could be in really hot water because, like,
Yes.
you can't argue that it was a mistrial.
Correct. Yeah. Self-representation it's tricky. It works if you understand the law really well, if you have the ability to, analyze the information, present the evidence, and argue your case well. And that's something I have seen absolutely incredible lawyers do. It's just not my area.
All right, here we go. Another episode of Canada on the Rocks. I am your host, Fatty Kuder, local realtor with Sun Group Ottawa. And today we are joined with Santana from Legal Tech Consulting Incorporated. That's a mouthful.
A little bit.
Especially when you're talking about legal services.
Yes.
Ugh. Tell me more.
Yeah, so I offer service to small to medium law firms normally to support a lot of their excess work. So I do a lot of things such as document preparation, ATIP requests, e-discovery. I am an e-discovery specialist, as well as just overall management of any of their work, optimization of their processes, and information security consulting.
That's okay.
It's a lot.
I want to kind of dig into it because it's like work optimization. That's a massive one to start with, especially when it comes to lawyers and lawyer offices. Before I go into that, though, I do want to know, like, is this just specifically for lawyers that you service, or do you offer your services outside of that?
Yeah, so I do offer it outside. I work with some law societies. So currently I work with the Law Society of Nunavut. I have a contract with them. So I support a lot of their projects, even just related to the legal sphere, but also outside. So I do a lot of access to justice projects with them and policy and project coordination there as well.
So let's dig into that a little bit more. Let's talk about the optimization piece.
Yep.
What does that entail? Why would they want to hire you?
Yeah, so in terms of that, what I do is I look at what their current processes are, and we look at supporting them to optimize the processes. So see if there's a way to include tech into it. So that might be with, for example, e-discovery. I've worked with some law firms to set up their e-discovery processes and looking at optimizing AI through various services like Relativity and Ringtail. And we look at what they're currently doing and how to make it better and how to make it faster for document review.
And that's a big thing when it comes to lawyers on like preparing for a lawsuit or preparing for some sort of a hearing or something like that. Lately, I've been noticing a lot of AI going towards that. So how do you guys support the lawyers in that sense?
Yeah, so a lot of the time with small to medium firms, they're not like larger firms, so they don't have a core e-discovery team. And so what they look for is essentially consultants or specialists to come in and do the e-discovery work, as well as set up everything from like start to finish.
Yeah.
So that includes getting in the massive amounts of electronic documents, putting them into the system, making sure there's like deduplication, a lot of other tech terms, but it's essentially paring it down so that
I don't have a problem with it, but I know that some audience will for sure. Deduplication, that's basically like when you're putting in documents, and let me just see if I'm on the right track here. Putting in documents and you're like, oh, but there is another document that looks very similar. The system is smart enough to kind of figure out no duplication here. We don't want to do it. And then you have the option to say yes, duplicate, or no, not duplicate.
Exactly. It's also removing copies. So for example, because in litigation files, you do get a lot of email threads that get put into the system for review. So you'll get a lot of...
It's annoying. The
multiplications
are just annoying. You're like, no, I think there's... And it sucks when like someone actually uses a new thread versus like the old thread, and you just kind of...
Yeah, and there's also...
lose your track.
Yes, and there's also the issue of like, for example, someone will start a new thread and then reply to an old thread and then start a new thread. And so it's a lot of like the same type of documents. And so you have to kind of pair through that, because if you're collecting email boxes from multiple, for example, multiple clients or multiple people in an organization to look through, you're going to get
a lot of duplication because they have to also match up, right? Like, maybe Johnny deleted 7 of them, but the other one didn't. And like, it's just, and where are they? If you deleted them, where are they? Because they could be important. They could be damning.
That's the other issue. So I've worked on a lot of cases where it's been find the document that we're looking for to support a legal issue. And it's like millions of documents. But then there's also the case where it's like, find the document that's missing. Like, we know this was sent. We have evidence it was
Yeah.
sent, but find it because they didn't produce it, which is a whole different ballgame.
Oh, yeah. Because then it's like, again, it's forensic
Yes.
legal issues, right? Like you're just going back and like trying to figure out exactly where it was, which one in the chain really just the one that just kind of diverted that document and deleted it, and why did they delete it? Is there, is there malice in there, or is there no malice? Like it makes a whole other aspect of it. So why did you choose to go into legal consulting, legal services versus paralegal or a lawyer? I
Yes,
think it might be two answers to there, right? Like,
a little bit. So I decided after university I wanted to do more schooling, but I didn't know if I wanted to be a lawyer. I always did have this idea in my mind that I wanted to be a lawyer, but kind of getting to do a little bit of activities throughout university, like mock trials, Queen's Model Court. I went to Queen's University, so that's what it was called. I learned that I don't necessarily like the lawyering aspect of being a lawyer.
yeah,
So a lot of people love the litigation. They love being in a courtroom and speaking and arguing on that aspect. I just didn't really enjoy that area. And I know there's different types of law, and I could have done something more document based, but then I thought about the schooling and, debt.
well, it congests that. Yeah, you're right. Like,
So
it's not cheap.
it's not. And I didn't necessarily want to be in school for a lot longer. So I condensed a 2-year master's degree into 1 year, focused on criminology and law, and focused on the areas that I was passionate about. And then after that, tried a bunch of different jobs, and the 9 to 5 was not my thing. And so I realized very quickly that I wanted to do something myself. And I just found other avenues that were like law adjacent rather than being a paralegal or a law clerk or a lawyer. So because I like doing multiple different things, kind of being in that little box was not what I wanted to do. And so I decided, okay, well, I have this experience from previous jobs working in law firms. I didn't necessarily like some of the law firm culture, especially in big law firms.
Tell me a little bit more about that, actually, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it can be difficult, and I know there's a lot of kind of emphasis on it lately.
Mhm.
Being part of a law firm as a woman can be challenging because it's still kind of that hierarchy of
Yeah, yeah.
male dominated.
It is still even to this day, and you see it quite often. Like, we see it on TV, we see it in like real life as well too. I've got friends that are lawyers, and like you could just see the difference that.
Yeah. And it's just you kind of go in and I've heard this from a lot of like colleagues that I work with. It was they would go to an event and the automatic assumption was that the male husband was the lawyer and the female was not.
Mhm.
Um, she was more deemed to be like a secretary or something like that. So not necessarily
Partner, the assistant, which is
exactly.
really not the case. I've seen the reversed often.
Yeah, so I didn't necessarily like that aspect. I also didn't like coming in and being somebody who I did like contract work as a legal assistant, and it was always like, oh, you're not a lawyer, so you don't have these skills. But I could easily, pick up skills to assist the lawyers in different ways.
Yeah.
And so that's where I kind of learned, okay, I can do this, but I don't have to be a lawyer in a
No,
sense where I could,
100%. And this is where they lose me sometimes. When I say lose me, like that sort of respect, like just because I'm not a lawyer, why is the law allowing me to argue my own case? Right?
yeah,
As long as I'm able to back it up with, the legalities, and like I have all the paperwork and I have all the case documents that I can go back to and cases that I can refer to, I think I should be able to do it by myself.
yeah,
It's not ideal, but
correct.
definitely, and you can't. This is where you could be in really hot water because, like,
Yes.
you can't argue that it was a mistrial.
Correct. Yeah. Self-representation it's tricky. It works if you understand the law really well,
Mhm.
if you have the ability to, analyze the information, present the evidence, and argue your case well. And that's something I have seen absolutely incredible lawyers do. It's just not my area. I'm rather like the person behind the scenes who will prepare all the documents, who will search through the evidence, who will find that little niche. And so that's the area that I like to work in. And so supporting law firms who have larger caseloads, but they're one practitioner, for example, that's essentially where I like to assist. They don't have a lot of support. And it's great for the people who are just starting out opening their own law firm. They've kind of got a taste of working in a larger law firm or a medium law firm, but they want to be able to control their schedule. They want to have a family life. It helps that they can hire somebody like me who gets the job done, who's had experience working in there, and I'm more cost effective than, for example, a paralegal or a law clerk.
And the cost effectiveness is probably the most important part of this whole formula.
Yes.
Why it works for you, why it works for them. It's a scratch my back, scratch yours kind of situation. Tell me a little bit more about that. Like, why do you think it makes total sense?
It makes sense because essentially you don't have to hire a full employee. So you don't have to have that automatic cost and support somebody for a salary, for example, and you might not have the work coming in yet. So as I said, for smaller law firms, they might just be starting out, but they can't necessarily take on all the work themselves.
Correct.
But they need someone to support, but they don't have enough work to support a full-time employee. Someone who's contract like me, you can literally hire me just for one case. Like it's in out.
That's the beauty of it is you're able to kind of just come in and freelance for that one particular, 1 to 2 or 3 cases, or hey, I'm only doing, maybe 20 hours a week kind of situation, that kind of thing. And then for you, I think it's a win-win because also on the other side, and correct me if I'm wrong, you get to experience a lot more in terms of cases and the variety and on all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's very different. It means I'm not doing the same thing over and over again. I get to kind of dabble in different areas of the law and different aspects of supporting law firms. So it's great that way. It's also great because you might not need a full contract work. You might just need me to do certain things. I've had older lawyers hire me just to file their court documents.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like the new system. I mean, you could talk to most lawyers nowadays and they're going to complain about the court system. It's not efficient for them.
Lawyers are divas. Like, I mean, we've all seen Suits, right? Like, it's very much of a macho diva kind of.
I mean, sometimes, side. But it's also like the actual court system. Like the filing needs work. The court document system needs work. Like it does need to be revamped. It needs to be optimized. It's not efficient for lawyers, and that's where a lot of their time gets taken. Mm-hmm. They're trying to figure out how they can get in touch with the courthouse, how they can get the information. And the difference is, and the great thing for my business is I'm an authorized court transcriptionist as well. So I work with the courthouse very frequently, just obtaining audio, getting information, putting in requests. So it's not like the lawyers coming in and who don't have that relationship. I already have a pre-existing relationship with the courthouses, which makes it easier for me to get the information. So it does help that way too, right? I have a working relationship already with the courthouse because of what I do as a transcriptionist. But then I also get to support people who just said, hey, it's turned to electronic. I'm not there. Like I've worked with some lawyers who are 60 plus are just not, they haven't transitioned yet into the electronic aspect.
Sure. And like sometimes we've experiencing this right now as we speak, actually in the real estate too. Like they've changed a couple of systems on us and a lot of folks that are in their older years. And I've been doing this for 40 years. I am not about to learn a brand new system.
Yep.
That's going to take me about 1.5 years to learn. I'm retiring in 1.5 years.
Yep,
and
it's
some
exactly
of them have been like, I want to sell my business. Great, yeah, I'll buy it. I'll work with you on, doing that. So it does, there is definitely ways to just kind of mitigate this with having somebody like yourself in doing the grunt work.
Exactly.
They don't necessarily want to do, but that grunt work is just as important.
Yep.
For the major work that they do.
It's absolutely important, and a lot of people just don't have time. It's more efficient for the client too, to pay me to do it at a lesser cost than, for example, an associate or a partner. I mean, their bill out is crazy.
Correct. And they always say the devil's is in the details, right? And your job is very much detail oriented.
Extremely.
How do you feel about some lawyers not wanting to give out control when it comes to stuff like this?
So it happens. I mean, realistically, some lawyers and some law firms work better when they just kind of micromanage everything, and that's fine. I'm probably not what they need.
I'm not for you.
Yeah. But for lawyers that necessarily, they're very good at what they do, and that's, getting in a court, arguing their case. But, paperwork, the details, it's not necessarily their thing.
Mm-hmm.
It works for me and it works for them. I can support them that way, but, you have to be willing to kind of give up that control. And it's not necessarily full control either. their name at the end of the day is on that paperwork.
Of course.
It's not mine, but I treat it as if it was my name. So for instance, I'm a court transcriptionist and I do that, but it's my name at the end of the day that's going on that transcript.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing too is the Law Society in Ottawa is very tight neck, and it's not just that Ottawa, but even in general for Canada, it's very tight neck.
Yes.
It's and for you to make a mistake or to make
Absolutely.
a very bad sort of judgment, it's going to affect your business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's definitely something to be said there in terms of paying attention to the details for sure.
Yes. And I always look at it as if this isn't my best work, I wouldn't want to put my name on it. Yeah. So anything I do is I pretend it's my name on it.
Yeah.
Because I want my reputation to be good. I need their reputation to be good. Plus you're not playing with, small amounts of money half the time when you're doing
for sure.
litigation files. It's large amounts of money. If you're doing criminal work, it could be someone's life on the line. So it's not something I take very lightly. I'm extremely detailed. I review everything. And a lot of the lawyers I work with, they say to me, it's easier for me to edit than it is for me to write everything. It takes
100%.
It's
100%.
so much easier.
And I can understand it from their perspective because I'm like that. I'm more big picture kind of situation. The details, I couldn't even be bothered with it. And this is sometimes it's a detriment for some of us that are type A, go. I just don't necessarily want to deal with the details. So I'd love to have somebody that can deal with the details properly.
Exactly.
And make me look even better.
Yeah. And that's the difference too, right? When you're dealing with, 20, 25 files plus, even 5 files, depending on the size of them, sometimes, and I've worked with a lot of lawyers, it's just when you don't have the capacity to take and look at everything with such detail, things get missed. When you have somebody who's there, who's supporting that capacity, and you're like, okay, I just need to review this. I can submit it. I can edit it. It makes it easier on them. It's yes, it might be cutting their billable hours in a sense, but not really because they still have to do the work that they need.
No, but it's not. Yeah, exactly. It's not necessarily cutting their billable hours. Well, it is cutting in their margins.
Yes, a little
bit. But it's not necessarily cutting in their billable hours because they get to bill even more.
Exactly.
Because now they have a lot more capacity, right? I'll give you a simple example. In our business, if you're, doing about 15, 20 transactions a year, it's good and well if you're on your own. But the second you pass that, then you are absolutely ripping yourself apart.
Yep.
You would need to have someone to be either a part-time assistant or a full-time assistant to take care of some of the grunt work.
Yep.
Reaching out, doing the handouts, for example, reaching out to the client, putting lock boxes, all of that stuff that's much more needed than anything because it's details. It's going to make that transaction stick.
Yep.
You still need it.
Yep.
But you can't do it all by yourself.
That's what I've noticed is that a lot of these law firms and these lawyers, they can't do it all by themselves and something gets missed and then that's when they reach out.
Yeah.
So it's really about supporting them. And realistically, even if you're looking at it, they're being billed out for the hours anyways, the clients. It's just you're actually getting to take on more work. So it's actually giving you more profits at the end of the day because you're not having to focus all your efforts on 5 files. You can now take 15 because you have someone else supporting you.
Exactly. And you won't be able to take on 15 if you're by yourself.
Exactly.
Right? You go from 5 to 15, that's triple the amount of work, triple the amount of billable hours. But with having someone like yourself, it's not really triple amount of work. It's maybe time and a half, maybe double.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're actually a lot more sane because now it's all the details that are the most important part of the whole thing are taken care of. But I really appreciate you coming in today and, sharing your experience and sharing your organization, what you guys do and all of that stuff. And for folks that are watching, if you like what you see, please don't forget to hit the like button. Very importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon. We've got so many more interviews coming with amazing people across the city. As you can see here, we've got Santana. So just don't forget, do that. And thanks again. Really appreciate it. Canada on the Rocks is where you want to kind of learn everything about business.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Santana.